Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's the big voice guy. That means it is another week of NEB Preps. And listen, we're trending. This is a Monday thing now. We think we have the schedules figured out, and although they may throw you a curveball next week or week after with the bye, I don't know. Are you prepared?
And we've got basketball season starting up, practice starting.
I know it.
Got some more variables entering the mix. But yeah, for now.
So what is it? Are we 5 weeks away from college hoops? Is that right? Roughly?
I don't even know. Like we're
that is shocking.
Practice is going to be open tomorrow. So obviously practice starting up here
with Mike going to Lincoln. Are you?
I'll be down in Lincoln and I'll be back for Creighton. I'll see.
Well, can I tag along? Because although Creighton may run into my afternoons, but
and Nebraska will be during your show, so probably won't work out.
Well, who's going to be my friend? Hello, friend.
You got Robbie.
That's true. Robbie will be working with me. He can hold my hand when he's not having he was hello. He was hilarious this morning. It took him about 4 minutes to get going on a Monday. So it's always an adventure, man. I love my partners, and Mr. Padilla is included as we come to you with another week. And relatively uneventful. It started out on a Thursday, which was exciting, but after that, not extremely competitive as we bring in another week.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the top 10s in both Class A and Class B. There was one top 10, like one game that was competitive among the top 10 teams in both classes. And then even there wasn't a whole lot of, there's like one notable result or poll change in C1, but you look down the list of Sauter's Coaches Poll on NEB Preps, not a whole lot of change at the top. It was pretty standard there. So, but I mean, where do you want to start? Do you want to go with that?
Let's
go
to A and start on Thursday night in a Metro matchup with Omaha North and Omaha Central, which a lot of folks were either in attendance or watched it on television.
Yeah, I mean, I was there and had people lining the fence to get a better view along the end zone there. So it's pretty fired up crowd. They were certainly there for the OPS rivalry.
A strange game in which you felt like at the half, North was maybe a score away from putting it away, and then all of a sudden they have to rally late. It's a good job by both teams of hanging in there.
Yeah, for sure. Ended up being a 20-16 win for Omaha North, but man, they barely pulled that one out. They were up 13-0 at halftime. Central hadn't really been able to get much going offensively, but
North couldn't really run the ball.
I came away from that game really impressed with what Central had done defensively, and they're like the size wise don't really match up. Obviously, North's pretty big on both lines, and that ended up being part of the difference there. But they made life tough. It wasn't. I think Jaron Cannon ripped off one or two long runs to kind of pad the numbers, but they weren't able to stay ahead of the sticks on running downs. And from that, they had to drop back and throw more than they'd probably like. And Sebastian Serco had a tough night.
He did.
For whatever reason.
Dirty pockets, of on the move, constantly harassed. And I think accuracy left a few plays out there, and he had to grind, man, but he was good late when it mattered the most.
That's the key. So, again, it was 13-0 at halftime, and then Central came out, started changing things up a little bit, and started looking for Mr. Deshaun Prince there more often. He had one catch, I think, for 9 yards in the first half. Second half became a much bigger part of their game plan, went to him early and often there, and they finally got the ball moving and ended up scoring 16 straight to take the lead with about 3 minutes and 21 seconds to play to go ahead 16-13 there. And Prince had both of their touchdowns. The first one was kind of a bizarre play where wasn't a great ball, but the receiver kind of misread it and jumped early thinking he had the pick, and the ball just fell into Prince's hands, and it just took one step into the end zone. Like he It didn't leave the ground, didn't have to compete for it. It literally just came right to his hand because the DB, who had good coverage initially, kind of bailed on the coverage thinking, oh, I got this pick, and the ball went right over his head. So that's a little bit of fortune there to get it going. The second one, that was all Prince there. Good ball and a heck of a play to go up and win that thing and
50-50
secure
ball.
it.
That was a really well-placed ball, I thought. Kind of back shoulder. He
Yeah.
went up a little bigger.
Gave him a chance and let your playmakers go come down with it. And Prince ended up 7 catches for 73 yards and the 2 touchdowns. And another guy I was impressed with was Kylon Haney, their running back, just a freshman there. Ended up 13 carries for 76 yards, had a couple of big runs, and even had some impressive 1 or 0 yard gains where shook a guy or two, and then the third defender was there to make the play. But good feet, dynamic, and he's physical too, like you said. And then on defense, they use him as well, and had a sack in that game. Came off at the edge and got Circo cleanly in a big spot. So really impressed with him. And then BJ Newsome had a tough time in the first half. Second half settled in and started.
Again, another quarterback that was kind of scrambling, running for his life, but a young guy, just a sophomore, kind of coming of age, because there's a lot of talent outside the numbers for Omaha Central, whether it's Pittman or Hill or, Prince. They've got some guys. DJ Sterling will flip over and play both sides. It's interesting for Central.
Liggins, a cornerback too.
That was cramps that were bugging him.
Yep. Had the pick early on the game along the sideline. Great catch. Had a couple of big breakups. Mentioned Pittman had a couple of big breakups. That back end, talked about some of the pressure and Circo not necessarily being on point, but a lot of those DBs went up and made plays.
Yeah,
on the
contested balls, and they would hit you too. That was tread lightly if you were a receiver trying to run open. And we saw it on the game-winning drive, right, with Champ Davis, where the ball was, he knew he was expecting a hit. He kind of bobbled it. It went to the ground, and he won another shot at it, and he made the most of it.
Yeah, so North got it back down by 3 with score was off there because they not in scramble line, but it was 16-13. That's right. So get the ball back with just over 3 minutes to play, put together a 12-play 80-yard drive to take the lead, and key plays on the game, facing a 4th and 10 North was, and threw it up, and defensive pass interference was a call, extend the drive. And I get people being mad because it was kind of a bang play, but you look at it, had his arm wrapped around his waist, kind of going through the body before the ball got there. It was close. If you call it one way or the other, you could justify it. I think that's a tough call to play, or tough play to.
I thought it was pass interference. To be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I know obviously Central fans weren't happy about the call, but there was enough there. He got there early. He didn't necessarily turn and spin him. It wasn't
progress, but he was early. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it too.
So tough battle there, but that extended it. But Central didn't kind of melt down at that point. They again put him in some tough spots. 2nd and 10, and then you mentioned that throw to Champ Davis, 25 yards up the middle. Dude got absolutely crunched on the catch and held on to it, and that got them down inside the 10. And from there, they were able to kind of run it out. It took them every chance they got, but finally put in their heavy package on with 1 yard to go. Put in big lineman Tyson Terry, Samarius Henderson's over there as lead blockers.
A lot of humanity
behind the left side of the line, and kind of just ran it in behind those guys and took the lead. And Central, and they left with.
That's like 640 pounds of humanity on that left side, right?
Yeah,
some big guys.
Yeah, and then we talked about Central to begin with don't have guys that size really, so you're outman
and playing without arguably their biggest interior lineman to start the game, so that you're at a deficit from the jump. Yeah,
so really impressed with Central, but North, they poised under pressure, found a way to make the plays. Circo only completed 9 passes, but threw for 155 yards, a touchdown. and then made that key throw to Davis there to put them in striking distance. Cannon, 19 carries for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. Davis had 3 catches, 54 yards, a couple of runs. Deion Cooper had the one passing touchdown from Circo, a 34-yard shot straight up the seam there. So that was definitely the game of the week in Class A, because beyond that, there was not a whole lot of competitiveness.
I mean, the top 10, we might as well get started. Number 1, West Side, schedule change. We play that game at 4, trying to beat the weather. So we drove home in the rain, but got to play, and it was relatively dry.
Yeah. 41-0, West Side at Norfolk. Anthony Rizak, 18-25 for 285 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did finally have a pick.
Yeah, and it was his very first pass attempt of the game.
Oh, wow.
And it was weird. Tried to fit one in a tight spot, and good play by Norfolk. They jumped it, and off all of a sudden we're in a battle.
Yep, 8 carries for 52 yards. So just cool, another 360 yards and 4 scores. It's solid. Seems like every week it's a different guy that he's going to in the passing game. This week, Keenan Cotton got loose, 7 catches, 136 yards, and a touchdown. So Cotton, Caleb's obviously had a big game or two. Christian Jones, it was only 2 passes, but went for over 90 yards. Got a lot of different guys that he can go to in that passing game.
It's interesting, too. So to start that game, our personnel package that we started the game with had Teddy Rizak on the sidelines, Caleb Benning on the sidelines, Keenan Cotton on the sidelines. We went with Spady, Jones, Grant Beitler, and Kevon Shannon. So just the versatility to kind of game plan is interesting. And just the way we do it, you have to be really, really unselfish. Probably the only team in the States that can start 3 of their top receivers not in on their top couple of personnel packages. Just you watch tape, man. You try to go, it gives you an advantage.
But one of those touchdowns went Cotton. One went to brother Teddy there, had 3 catches, 66 yards and a touchdown. Caleb had a touchdown catch, and Jamez Ross had a touchdown catch. So spread the ball around, got a lot of different guys into the end zone there. Defensively, 15 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks from RJ Eckhart. Bo Ryan had a pick, and Jordan Hurst had a pick. So all in all, pretty complete performance after that first play of the game.
So if you're talking about waiting to measure, and I get it. It's kind of a foregone conclusion, people think, with West Side, and I understand why. Got North Platte coming up here for homecoming. Are you waiting for Kearney and Millard South, or is there something in particular that you're looking for confirmation, or are you settling in on that up until this point?
Nah, I think, and especially the way that you've talked about the team and the motivation, it seems like they're locked in every week. Like
we'll find this week it's the fact we lost to North Platte, so it's always
finding something. So it doesn't seem like the kind of the let up is coming. Guys have been able to stay locked in pretty well, and obviously the talent is pretty overwhelming there. So we'll see how it plays out. See if what happens leading up to those matchups. I just hope both sides, everybody stays healthy. We can get to those points where the best can go at the best. Speaking of the Patriots there, 57-10 against Lincoln North Star. Mr. Jet Tamala had himself a day. 20-28 for 285 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air. He also ran for a touchdown, which doesn't do a whole lot of running there, but and
apparently they maybe have found something in Prussia at the running back spot, filling in with admirably for Feller.
Yeah,
just a pup, right? Sophomore.
Yep. So fitting in with the rest of their skill players for the most part. So I mentioned Tamala. Pruka, 17 carries for 111 yards and a touchdown. Also 4 catches for 46 yards. Marion Jackson, 6 catches, 90 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Man, I got to go back and see how many touchdowns he's had over the last 3 weeks.
I think 8.
So, yeah, that sounds about right.
In the last 3 weeks. So we talked about, I think maybe spoken into existence.
All sophomores there.
We talked about kind of the slow start for him, and since then, he's been rolling. He wins a lot of balls in the air. Yeah. I mean, 50-50 ball, probably bet on AJ.
Yeah. Isaiah Traylor had a touchdown, and then DeLon Jones and Isaac Jensen, another sophomore, also caught touchdowns. So And defensively, they were able to get in a lot of guys there. It was kind of a short night, pretty easy night for their veteran defensive linemen, able to mix in a bunch of guys. So impressive performance by them. Impressive performance by Millard West against South Sioux City team. Obviously, they hadn't played a tough schedule yet, but they had taken care of business. And Tony Palmer had kind of run rush shot over everybody. Palmer, again, kind of got his. He had 19 carries for 105 yards, but the rest of the team
workmanlike
combined for 66 yards and got shut out as Millard West won at 49-0. Tuned in a little bit early on, like when I was at the Devaney Center, just pulled up a stream because it's the only one that I could find that was working. And basically, first play I saw was Jackson Williams touchdown around the edge.
He's so explosive.
Yep. So again, like you look at those top three teams there, combined 98, 138, 147 to 10 for the three teams this week. So
those are the tightly contested, impressive games you were talking about in Class A and B. And even when we get to B, the stunner Waverly handling York, that was one I was looking forward to, but we'll get to that. But before we do, we can't skip over. We're staying in order here. Number 4, Kearney.
Yep. And did give up 24 points, but they got that lead early and basically had it the whole way. It wasn't necessarily something where they pulled away late. Kearney 38, North Platte 24. Griffin Novacek, talked about him a lot recently. 5 passes for 89 yards and 17 carries for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. Eli Randolph had 10 carries, 80 yards and a touchdown. Sawyer Schilke had 7 tackles and a rushing touchdown.
He's so good.
So
he and Molina, and even Novacek, they're just that's a good
a lot of options.
It's a good little trio. I'm excited, right? You can't obviously overlook North Platte, but I'm excited to go there in 2 weeks.
And the thing is, like, obviously we know they want to run the ball, they can run the ball, but there's enough in that passing game too to keep you honest with Xander Ruling, with Carter Lee at receiver, with Novacek able to be that dual threat guy.
He's got experience too.
So Kearney again looking strong there. We already talked about North, who is still sitting there at number 5, kind of pulling that off. Then
Elkhorn South.
Yeah, Elkhorn South, 75-0 against Omaha Northwest. And obviously now we know with Carson Ronner done, they're working in Madden Riggs at quarterback. Seems like he's obviously the schedule is lightened up for him after that Millard South game that we talked about previously. But it seems like he's settling in a little bit, able to kind of get more comfortable. And obviously they got a lot of weapons. Brady Bousquet has been back after missing the first couple weeks of the season. Talked about Jay Nseko before, the sophomore there at running back. Luke Hoskinson at receiver is a veteran guy for them. So, and
you're still good up front, right? So
that makes things easier.
And we knew that was a strength.
Yep. At number 7, Lincoln East, 41-14 against Columbus, and East is
quietly a good win.
Yeah, and
Columbus has kind of been a thorn a little bit. It hasn't always been easy sledding for teams that have played them. I thought that was pretty impressive.
And we talked about like Lincoln, like who we thought had a chance to be kind of the best team in Lincoln, and I don't think East really came up. Obviously, with what they lost from last year, what they lost over the last couple of years,
coming off of Southeast, kind of getting hammered this week, and what I thought was a key matchup for them to see if they could ride the momentum. Maybe it is Lincoln East.
Yep. They're sitting there at number 7 right now, and at 4-1 on the season. So again, mentioned that 41-14. Jeter Wordley is, I think, continued to improve. Got some experience last year, first year as a starter as a sophomore, and seems like he's been in pretty good control this season, pretty comfortable, both as a runner and a passer. 12 of 17 for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns through the year, 6 carries for 57 yards. And Dash Bowman, again, continues to be one of the most productive players in Class A in terms of all both receiving, running, and then playing defense.
Kind of flying under the radar too here on a statewide level.
Really good pickup for Wyoming there. 16 carries, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Had 4 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. Had 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. So Mr. doing everything for them. And they had 6 tackles for loss and 3 picks. So their defense is really active. And Mikhail Ford had a 66-yard touchdown reception and a 50-yard pick 6.
That's it.
So a couple of big plays for the junior there. And they've got a big one this week. they are hosting Millard South. So if they want to prove like, hey, we're firmly in this top 10, they get to take on one of the best this week.
Yeah, and to be a little bit of a, I don't know, a chance for Millard South to kind of make a statement too, on the heels of an anticipated matchup, obviously in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and obviously that Elkhorn South game was the first one where, and we talked about how didn't really know what to make of it because of the quarterback situation, because of how weird it is, and since then, Millard South has continued.
Yeah, that
to get
offense
better,
seems to kind of have started to hit their stride.
but the competition dropped off a little bit from where it was early on too. So this is a chance for them to again, all right, show what kind of progress they've made against a better team. And then you got Gretna at 56-0 against Bellevue East. Papillion La Vista 54-0 against Benson, and Grand Island, who cracked the top 10 this week, at 4-1 with a 49-0 shutout at Fremont. So that kind of rounds out the top 10. Bellevue West is receiving votes outside there. 77 win against Omaha South. Good to see Isaiah McMorris back on the field and looking healthy. Certainly didn't show any ill effects of the hamstring on that long touchdown he had. Little screenplay, 50-plus yards. And they get a big one this week. Gretna versus Bellevue West. Obviously, we know what happened to Gretna, their last test against Millard South. Bit humbling there. And now
they turned the ball over uncharacteristically in that one, and you let a team like Millard South kind of gain that confidence, they can snowball on you with their talent.
And this whole season has kind of been somewhat humbling. Obviously, really bad luck for Bellevue West with the injuries or whatever, but there's a chance for both those teams to kind of, all right, reassert themselves like, hey, we're still in the mix here. So that'll be a fun one in Class A. And then you mentioned Millard North got off the schneid there. Dismantled Lincoln Southeast.
That was a little surprising at the ease in which they took care of that one.
Yep. And we mentioned Central had a really impressive showing against North. Now they get Creighton Prep on Friday, and obviously rivalry there. And
man, that
be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, can Prep keep things in front, and can Central handle Prep along the interior? They're going to get their hands full with trap and veer, and they'll run ISO, and Prep will make you play it honest defensively, and we'll see if Central can continue to kind of beat things with speed, but they will have to be very disciplined because Prep will make you pay in the run game if you get out of fits.
For sure. Hopping down to B, number one, Bennington took care of business 28-7 against Elkhorn, and Bennington was in control throughout that game, but seeing that result compared to what I saw Scott do to Elkhorn last week, I think that makes that win that much more impressive. It was just complete domination from Scott last week. And Bennington 28-7, again, another big day for Quinn Archer, 140 yards on the ground. Salmon had 2 touchdowns through the air, threw for 84 yards. KJ Taffa had a touchdown. Elliot Anderson caught a touchdown. Hudson Newverth caught a touchdown. And Kyler Lauritsen, 12 tackles,
he's something.
3 for loss, and a 60-yard pick six. So yeah, pretty dynamic player there, all over the field for Bennington there. Elkhorn just struggling, kind of get anything going offensively.
And Bennington is so good defensively.
Yeah.
Right. That defense is legit. They do it week in, week out. They've proven points are going to be hard to come by. I don't care who you are.
Yep. So Elkhorn fell out of the top 10 with kind of the back-to-back big losses there. Scott, 76-0 against Buena Vista. I think that's all we need to say there. And then you mentioned Waverly.
This was impressive.
Yep. I think firmly established themselves as that number 3 team there with a 28-0 shutout against York.
7 of 13 on third down conversions. They kept the ball. They took it away from York twice. I was pretty impressed because this was at York. I thought can be a difficult place to play. That Waverly was impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that
I watched that. They're physical.
And that key group of playmakers they have where you can lean on a different guy each game, depending on what you like with the matchups, who's got the hot hand. Nolan Moss, 7-10 for 74 yards, had a rushing touchdown. Aiden Smith had carried the load, 22 carries, 110 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Evan Cassens had 10 catches for 61 yards.
It's a lot of good,
or 10 rushes for 61 yards.
a lot of good Aidens. Aiden Wayne, Aiden Smith, Aiden Miller. It's a good year for Aidens.
6 catches for 69 yards, hit all 4 of their PATs. And I mean, so you got Moss, Smith, and Cassens all totaled over 100 yards from scrimmage there. So you had 3 guys that are just dynamic playmakers. They had turnovers too, 2 fumble recoveries and a pick. Part of that shutout. So Waverly, again, continues to look really impressive there at number 3. And now tough trip heading out to Scottsbluff, who we'll talk about momentarily. On Friday,
licking their wounds maybe a little bit. And, coming at number 4, Elkhorn North, through no fault of their own, unblemished record at 5-0. I think other schools are being rewarded for the schedule.
Yeah.
But all Elkhorn North can do is play who's up next for them.
Yep, 42-0 against Omaha Westview, who was up next, and 2 quarterbacks combined, 6 for 10 for 110 yards, 3 combined touchdowns between the 2 of them. That would be Ethan Beachy and Johnny Ferguson. Jet Tinglehoff, 125 yards on the ground, 2 scores, 4 tackles. Jace Reynolds had a 59-yard touchdown carry, just a sophomore, I believe. 5 tackles. Chase Lofton had 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. And then Tommy Mechna, another interception. Continues to make plays both at wideout and on defense for them at 2 catches, 49 yards. So they definitely got a lot of playmakers there on both sides of the ball. And they will get Elkhorn now on Friday, showdown of the Elkhorns.
Gonna be a good one. I think early on, Elkhorn North may be too strong up front, but again, in a rivalry, all bets are off on that one.
Yep. Number 5, Plattsmouth, 52-14 against Beatrice. Gabe Villamonte, 12 of 14, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dominic Versalino, 22 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He keeps coming up, doesn't he?
Yeah. Ethan Walker, 5 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches, 20 yards. Lincoln Bradney had a receiving touchdown, 68 yards. Caleb Adkins had 2 receiving touchdowns and a sack. Gage Olson, 4 catches, 66 yards, 8 tackles, and a tackle for loss. So really strong homecoming performance there for Plattsmouth. We mentioned York already. GI Northwest,
huge win.
Game of the week in Class B there for 35-34 over Scottsbluff. And Bearcats had the lead 21-14 going into halftime. GI Northwest already moved on. That's last time I saw GI Northwest was against Elkhorn North. Rallied out at halftime, took the lead there, pulled ahead 35-28, and Scottsbluff had the last possession, had a chance, marched down the field, tied it up.
Yeah, Sebastian gets in,
and then extra point failed, ended up losing on a single point there. We saw that earlier in the season with the battle of the Millards.
West.
That's rough. Again, like in football, the kicking game is such an afterthought.
That's a huge win for Northwest, though.
100%. And that's, again, it's another team that we talk about. Their schedule is ridiculously tough every year. They play all the other best teams in B, and it can get beat down a little bit. They got some receivers there. Cam Jensen at quarterback, and Cam Walker is a guy that I was really impressed with. Made some tough catches, good side receiver.
Can high point a ball.
So they've got some weapons there, and they were able to kind of pull that one out.
Talk about contrasting styles.
Yeah,
one prefers it in a phone booth, and the other one can spread you out.
So and so Scottsbluff out to a 3-0 start. Couple of rough losses against some good teams recently, and now it doesn't get any easier this week, like we talked about. So that'll be a big one to watch there in B. And then Seward, the other competitive game, 22-15 against Gering, and that's one where Gering was up 15-14.
I didn't know
a
ton about Gering going into this one. I always hear about Scottsbluff right there with that tandem, but apparently it's a quality opponent.
Yeah. They were down 15-14 at halftime, and Seward took the lead in the third quarter and completed a 2-point conversion to put themselves up 7 there. and then shut them out the rest of the way. That was enough to get the win. Treston Haas, we've talked about him before, sophomore quarterback, 9 of 15, 170 yards, 21 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. And then Edison Knott, 14 carries, 73 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also caught a 17-yard pass. And for Gehring, Tanner Gartner led the way, 20 carries, 117 yards, and both of their touchdowns there. So Seward kind of plugging along there. Down there at number 9.
Speaking of plugging along, how about number 10, Norris?
Norris, yep, off this week.
Kind of hanging around.
Now they return to the field out there against Beatrice this week. Kind of the one result in Class C2 or change in the poll is Ord climbed from 4 to 3 with an 82-0 shutout against Gibbon. Wow.
You talk about a tough schedule.
Yeah.
Only team in the top 3 there that has the 2 losses, but a tough schedule for Ord.
Oakland Craig snuck by Hardington Cedar Catholic 24-21 and then dropped the spot. So coach was just impressed with what Ord has done this year and bumped them ahead despite both teams winning. Big one this week. Norfolk Catholic at Battle Creek. Yeah. Top 2 teams in C1. Or C2 rather.
No love losses. 1 versus 2. Both teams 10-0 combined record.
Running through some shout outs here. A couple of gigantic duo performance there. We mentioned that Ord win. Dylan Hurlbert, 12 of 15 for 117 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also had 5 carries for 57 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's 6 touchdowns by himself. Also had 5 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. And Trent McCain, also a senior there for Ord, 10 carries for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns on offense, 10 tackles on defense, 6 tackles for loss, including a sack, had a forced fumble, had a 23-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown as well, and that 83-0 shutout against Gibbon. So those 2 dynamic performance. And B, Blair took down Elkhorn Mount Michael 42-7. Bodie Suckup 14-21 for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Good to see him get it going.
Yep. And Brock Templer, who we've talked about before, 18 carries, 155 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. So again, he's just having a monster season and had another big game there. Centura senior Calvin Zimmerman, 25 carries for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus 6 tackles, including 1 for loss in a 36-0 shutout of David City. Boone Central, again, having a monster season.
God, they look really
Parker
really
Moore
good.
has absolutely torn it up this year and had another big game. 9 carries, 147 yards, and 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns on 9 carries. Yeah. That's pretty efficient. He also had an 8-yard receiving touchdown. So 5 total touchdowns, had a tackle for loss as well. And a 63-0 win against West Point Beamer there. Shout out Connor Booth again, Wahoo Newman there.
Doing what he does.
31 carries, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, also had 2 2-point conversions in a 28-20 win against Utah. They need every bit of what he was able to give them for that one.
I think I'd give it to him a few times.
Yeah.
Good player. Be a fantastic week. That is it in a hurry. Another week of NAB preps. We'll be back next week. We kind of like this Monday thing. That's my man Jacob Padilla. I'm ODB. Shane Schillerberg over there producing magnificently. We'll be back next week. Don't you dare miss it.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.